Hi, this is Alessandro Seganti, data engineer at Cognitum. I would like to present you today Ontorion, our semantic knowledge management framework. Let's start by looking at the knowledge base that we will use in the whole video. We have a customer that pays bill and lives in a city. Then each city belongs to a state. Furthermore, the state can contain the city. In this slide we see that we have modeled four types of customers: the industrial customer, the intermediate, the ultimate and the external customer. The arrow of the industrial customer is green because it has not been explicitly written inside the ontology. In this particular case we are considering that the industrial customer is a customer that is from some industry. Here we can see the ontology in Fluent editor. We see that we have builds, we have the customer that can have properties first name, surname, email, photo. And then we see that we have the states as we saw before. The states have latitude and longitude, for example. Then we can ask questions to the reasoner. For example, what is a customer? Then, for example, we can show that it is possible to ask who is an industrial customer. That, as we showed before, this is something that has been reasoned. For example, let's see for customer 498 that we can see that he is from chemical industry, and this means that he is an industrial customer. We can also make more complex queries, like what is a customer that lives in a city that is contained by California state. As you can see here, this is a complex query, also because we are using the passive form, that it was not written originally in the ontology. This can then be all exported to Ontorion by using the export to Ontorion command in the external tab. As you can see here, you can put the database name and then choose the Ontorion Server endpoint IP. Check if the Ontorion Server is available at this IP and then export. As we can see here, we have Ontorion loaded locally, and we can see that each package is loaded into Ontorion. Now we will go to the second part of this presentation. We will present a web application powered by the Ontorion API. As you can see, this application is an ASP.NET application where we have on the cloud we have an Ontorion that is answering to our questions. In this application we have more than one database, and it's possible to ask questions to the database in the same way in which you are doing in a Fluent editor. So we can start, for example, to ask what is a customer, and we will get back the customers. As we can see here, we have used the information about the customers to represent it in HTML, using also the picture of the customer, for example. All of this information are represented in our Ontorion control natural language. As you can see on the top, there is also the equivalent way of writing it in description logic. And also you can see here that there is also the OWL equivalent of this, that it's similar to an XML file. Now I want to show you that it is possible to ask an industrial customer as in Fluent editor. This is because also in Ontorion there is the reasoner that is reasoning using the rules that we have written in the ontology to reason the correct answer. Here we see that it is possible to navigate through all the properties of the customer, and for example it is possible to use the latitude and the longitude of the city or of the state to show a map corresponding to this. Now we would like to show you that it is possible to make very complex queries also in Ontorion. For example, we can ask who is the customer that pays a bill with price greater than 100, and as you will see, we get very quickly the answer. And the bill here, we can see that is a bill with a price more than 100. Then it is possible, for example, to ask for a customer that lives in a city that is contained by California state. Here is interesting that not only it is possible to reason as in Fluent editor, but what is interesting is that in the ontology we have written that only the contained element, but here we can use the passive form and ask for who is contained by. Now we would like to show you that it is very simple to edit the ontology that we have in Ontorion database. As you can see now, we can search for the customer 5346, and you can see that he lives in Seattle. So let's try to change this. We can go to the edit part and search for all the information that we have in the database about this customer. Then we can find the line where we have lives in, and we change it to San Francisco. We save the changes to the server and we ask again. And after the modification, we see that the customer is living in San Francisco. Let's see now the SPARQL capabilities of Ontorion. As everything in Ontorion is stored in a graph database, it is possible to use SPARQL to query the database and not only CNL queries. SPARQL is the equivalent of SQL for linked data. As you can see, it is very simple to use it, and we see that doing a SPARQL query we get back the result expected. Not only Ontorion provides SPARQL capabilities, but it is also possible to use it as a SPARQL endpoint. So for example, here we copied the link that is present inside the application, and we can use it inside the Sesam workbench to define a new SPARQL repository. After this, we can use the SPARQL repository, and querying the repository we get again the same result that we were expecting. Let's see how our Addin for Excel is working. We can open the Ontorion tab and import from SPARQL. Here we have given a simple SPARQL query in which we are retrieving data from a SPARQL endpoint. Furthermore, we have added in the Ontorion tab also the possibility to import from Ontorion. So it is possible to connect to Ontorion, choose the database that we want to connect to, and start to write the query exactly as we were doing with the ASP.NET application. Then if we execute, we can load into Excel the result of a CNL query. Now I would like to finish this presentation by presenting to you the Ontorion SDK structure and the tools and demo application that we have inside. After installing the Ontorion SDK, you will have on your computer the Ontorion Server SDK developer folder with inside the bin and the SDK. In the SDK folder we have the API library, the application for hosting the API as a Windows service, and the client console. Now I would like to present you the command line interface. This is a tool using which it is possible to use all the API functions and speak to Ontorion. It is, for example, to list the databases that we have inside the Ontorion. For example, it's possible to search for instances, then read module to get the information about this instance, and then, for example, we can describe instance that is will get you back all the properties and attributes of this particular instance. Moreover, as we already said, SPARQL is built in, so it is possible to also from the command line console do SPARQL queries. For example, we can do a SPARQL query in which we are selecting everything in the database by limiting it to the first 10 results. Then here we choose standard outputs as an output, but we can choose other types as XML. Finally, I would like to present to you the demo application inside the Ontorion API. This demo app is a very simple application. We are showing how to use the Ontorion API and all its functionality. As you can see here, we are creating a database, and then we are starting to do some queries on this database. So for example, we ask for super concept or sub concept, and then finally we do a SPARQL query. So as you can see, this is very simple to start, and it's very simple application to start to look at the Ontorion API and understand how the API is working. If you need more information about Cognitum, Ontorion or Fluent Editor, please visit our website or contact us.